it'd be a good idea for the members to maybe introduce themselves and any comments they might have. Kathleen?
Hi, everybody. I'm Kathleen Howley. I've lived in Canton since 2006, so I'm new here. It's an honor to serve on the Independent Police Audit Procurement Committee. I do have a question because I was going to ask it as a point of order, but I'll ask it now. When Article 6 was passed by 903 voters, I'll just note that's triple the amount that usually passes our entire annual budget. There was no mention of a chairman in the motion, but the January 22nd letter from Randy Scollins appointed Mr. McCarthy as chairman. So I do think that was exceeding the powers that were given under this article that passed a special town meeting. I do think it would be nice, a show of independence for the committee, because we want to reassure taxpayers that our $7 million a year plus, if you don't count capital expenditures, are well spent. We are fund the police people. We want to fund the police. We are paying the taxes that fund the police, and we're happy to do that. We just want assurance that our money is being well spent, and the way to get that is with a truly independent committee that is perceived as independent, that there's no, because there's two problems, a conflict of interest and an appearance of a conflict of interest, both are problems. So I think it would be a nice move if the committee chose its own chairman and had nominations other than Bob. And Bob, you're a wonderful person, but you know, it was not given in the article that passed the special town meeting. Randy Scollins just appointed Bob, which does not seem quite according to Robert's rules. Thank you.
Hi, my name is David Clow. I've been living in Canton since 2015. I'm a member of the Finance Committee, as well as I've served on the Capital Planning Committee in the past. Just honored and privileged to be a part of this committee, and in hopes that, you know, the town can heal and move forward in the right direction. And thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Dan Hughes, an emergency physician working at Brockton Hospital, who's been living in Canton since the fall of 1995. I have been involved as a volunteer in multiple areas, not much legislative in the town of Canton. Also, some issues have come up, and I thought that I would just make a statement to clarify some of the things that recently have been stated on social media, which, by the way, has to be sent to me because I do not have a social media platform. So several statements have been made about my relationship with the Canton Police Department, Municipal Police Training Committee, and the Norfolk County DA's office. Since 2013, I've been involved with the medical training of police in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Began with naloxone training, which is an antidote for opioid overdoses, an epidemic that is now taking over 100,000 lives every year in this country. On my time and expense, I assisted the district attorneys in Norfolk County and Middlesex County with naloxone train-the-trainer programs for all the police departments in their jurisdiction. At the behest of Brockton Hospital, I also did the same for Plymouth County. I also trained the local colleges and universities, along with several corrections departments in this training. My work with the Municipal Police Training Center is as a medical advisor. I oversee the medical curriculum and the medical training to assure that the police and the citizens of the Commonwealth have the very best care in the event of an accident or medical emergency. My direct in-person training is very limited, as most training is done virtually. I have never at any time at the MPTC trained any cadets, except for advanced tactical training that was last offered before COVID-19. I have only been involved with in-person training for the instructors and not individual police officers. My relationship with the Canton Police Department is voluntary. I am not the medical director for the Canton Police, and there is no contract with this department. The statement made on the Board of Health agenda dated August 8th, 2022 is erroneous. When asked, I volunteered to do medical training and have answered medical questions, not as their medical director, but as a knowledgeable town citizen who is willing to help. Over the years, I've signed off on their medical detainee policy, which assures that a detainee in the police department receives appropriate medical care when necessary. It should be noted that I have done this for several towns in the Commonwealth. Lastly, I am not here to represent 903 citizens. I'm here to represent all the citizens and the taxpayers of Canton. Volunteering my time to multiple town agencies, police, fire, school, recreation, to name a few, if that is a conflict of interest, then I'm guilty. I would think, however, that the spirit of volunteerism is exactly what is needed to ensure the impartiality people are looking for. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Kelly. I've been a Canton resident since 1973, which I guess makes me the senior member at this table, does it not, Bob?
Yes, it does.
I'm a retired lieutenant colonel from the state police. I've been retired for about 18 years. And I just want to make one minor correction. Last night, I don't do social media and I'm not on any platforms, and I very rarely read email. There was an email that came out last night that referenced a number of reasons why I could not be a participant in this committee because I could not be fair and impartial. And one of the reasons that it referenced the state police bio. It was a very impressive bio, but unfortunately it was not mine. It was for some other Kelly, not this one. But in any event, I look forward to the process. I know this is going to be a collegial event, and I know we're all going to work hard for the town, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
I'm Bob McCarthy. I've been a resident of the town since 1977. I spent 8 years on the Finance Committee, 10 years on the School Committee, and 30 years on the Building Renovations Committee. I was asked to oversee this because of the past work on putting together RFPs for the town on numerous projects. BRC has spent in excess of probably $165 million on projects throughout the town. Every one of those projects come in on time and on budget. That's a pretty damn good track record. And hopefully we'll be able to do something with this as well. That'll give you the introduction to all of us here tonight. And I would say we'd go to the first point of our agenda. No, I'm sorry. The meeting tonight is basically, no, please sit down.
They introduce themselves and I would like to ask them a question.
No, at the end of the meeting, at public comment, you can. Up until that point, we're under Robert's Rules of Order, and please sit down. Please sit down. Please sit down.
This is why we're having this audit. I will sit down, Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you.
But this is why we're having this thing, because there's a trust issue. And you won't even let me ask a simple question. This is why the community wants the audit. Thank you. I will wait until the agenda items and then public comments.
All right, I'm looking for nominations for chairman of the Police Audit Committee.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Dave Clow for chairman.
Second?
Chairman, I'd like to nominate Bob McCarthy.
And I will second that.
Can I have a point of order? There's a motion that's been seconded and is on the table.
No, both of them go.
That's not
That's-
Robert's rules.
That's Robert's rules. You can have two, and we vote accordingly.
You have to take them one at a time.
No, we can take them both at the same time and vote on one. Yeah, well,
So,
I'm sorry. I've been doing Robert's Rules of Order for 30-plus years, and I think I know it better than somebody who's never sat on a committee. Now, we have a motion before us. The motion is, and we'll go, because it's my priority, we'll vote on Mr. McCarthy first. Roll call, please. Kathleen?
I object because it's not Robert's rules, but I vote
Yes or no?
for Dave.
I would like to ask if a couple of the members would like to recuse themselves since they're associated with the police. The underlying article has mentioned that there should be no affiliation with the police in the article, not to discredit any of your personal accomplishments, but there should be no police on the committee as written in Article 6 of the special town meeting warrant.
I disagree with that, and quite frankly, we're moving on. So how are you voting on this?
You are the worst. Is this collaboration? It's a steamroll as it is.
How are you voting?
What's the
Up or
vote?
down, yes or no?
You didn't, could I please hear the vote again? What's the question?
To elect Mr. McCarthy as chairman of this committee.
No,
Kathleen voted
objection.
no.
No, objection. I nominated before anybody else. That was the motion that's been
That's how it
seconded.
works.
That's on the floor
No, it isn't.
You're out of
to
order.
You
nominate
could
Bob.
have two on the
You're out of
floor at the
order.
same time. No, I'm not. You're out of order. Yes or no?
Do you? No.
Okay,
Yes.
And
yes? Yes.
you gentlemen,
We have
has
three-
everyone taken
We
conflicts
have
of
3 to
interest
2.
training and been
Mr.
sworn in?
McCarthy is the chairman.
Has everyone taken conflict of interest training and been sworn in by the town clerk?
Yes.
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 Have you guys
Everybody
filled
has
out your ethics training?
We were told we had 30 days to complete it when we were sworn in the other day.
We're going to be we're going to be voting on, we're going to be handling $200,000 of taxpayers' money. I think that before anybody does that, they should have this certificate. But also here, I have a form that, it's not about being, you're a great guy.
You don't know me.
Well, I hear you're a great guy, but it has, conflicts of interest have nothing to do with it being a great guy or not. I have here a disclosure form that you could fill out that would help the situation if you wanted to follow the
Let me
rules.
overrule you for a
Can
minute
we
here,
please
please. if I could.
stay along the.
These
rules?
people were elected by town meeting. 903 votes voted for the 3 of us.
No, no.
Oh, yeah.
no,
Oh,
no,
yes, they did.
No,
Oh,
time out.
oh,
Mr.
oh, yes,
McCarthy.
they did.
You
You don't
held
under-
an
you
election
don't-
for us,
the
and you
highest-
appointed
The
these two
highest
individuals
legislative
yourself.
body in the town of Canton
That's
is
not correct.
town meeting. Oh, yeah, yes, it definitely is. And I've checked with town council.
And
So
it
I know
Who's
I'm
in charge of
correct.
the meeting,
did not
town
make
council or
you- It
yourself?
did not make you chairman, though.
You two have been nominated to the election that was run at the instigation and the overview of town council. You
Where
came
does
in
it say
at
in the
58
article
votes,
that
you
you
came
are-
in at 57 votes.
May I ask you,
You
where
made
does
up
it
an
say in
election.
the article that you're chairman to even run this election and to be sitting in that seat? Where does it say that? It doesn't.
Who else was going to put it together?
You put it
Mr.
together.
Randy
you're not the
Scollins put it
chairman.
together and said, you'll be the chairman until we get to the meeting, at which point a permanent chairman will be elected. We just did that.
Mr.
Well, you're out of order. You're out of order. If you keep it up, I'll ask you to clear the room. And don't think I won't.
Motion to adjourn.
This is amazing.
All right, moving on to the next part of the agenda. Scope of services.
So what about vice chair?
Yeah, what about vice chair?
I nominate Dave Clow for
Fine.
vice chair of the committee.
All right,
Is there a second? You have to ask.
Second?
we'll take it one at a time. All those in favor? By
Aye.
roll call.
Aye.
Oh, come on.
You have to abstain, you have to abstain,
Oh.
yes or no?
Aye, there's no,
Thank you.
you are the vice chair.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Vote no. So what is it? 3-2?
No, I'm fine with it.
You still have to record the vote, yeah.
Okay.
And can you let us know how you vote?
I said no.
Okay, thank you. I didn't hear it.
4-1, the motion
4-1.
carries.
Yep. All right. The scope of services. I did send out to everybody over the weekend a proposal on scope of services. Dave said he just sent another one out recently, but nobody has seen it yet. So I have read for the past 2.5 months that any committee that I was going to head, we would tank the scope of services to make sure nothing was done. That's been all over social media. In fact, you wrote quite a bit about it, Kathleen. So
Can you be more, I don't know what you're talking about. Could you clarify?
the scope of services that I would put together with this committee would not meet the needs of what you were talking about, and what you wanted.
I
Go
wrote
ahead.
a lot about, it's very easy to tie the hands behind the back in the scope of services by limiting what the company can look at. Yes, I
What I
did
would
say
like
that.
to do at this point, although I really don't like to do, but what I think I'm going to have to do is basically read the scope of services that I have here in front of me so that the public will be able to see that we're trying to meet the entire role of our committee to put together a scope of services that will meet all of the needs of the town of Canton coming up.
Before you read it, Mr. Chairman, I just want to make a point that I ran it through the Grammarly plagiarism checker, and it's plagiarized from the Holyoke RFP.
Yeah. It's from that, and it's from many others. I stole liberally from all of them.
Okay, I don't think that reflects well on Canton, but I would also point out that Holyoke is a city that's very different from
Yeah,
Canton.
I'm quite aware of it, and they've been adjusted to a certain extent. Have you read? Have you
I
gone
have,
over it?
yes.
Okay. The audit shall analyze the organization, structure, and governance, the communications, cross-functionality, and horizontal integration of departments' internal working, the efficiency and effectiveness of the policies, procedures, rules, regulations, giving guidance to the department's strategic and capital planning, the operational budget and financial considerations of the budget within the town constraints, the application of professional standards and organization accountability, along with the management, operation, and culture of the Canton Police Department. The audit shall include comparisons to similar situation and size communities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Town size and demographic form of government should be used in comparison. Emphasis should be made on citizens' privacy and how this is handled. It should also include citizens' complaints, conflict of interest, crime scene protocols. A review of select board oversight should determine compliance to the industry standards and recommendations for the needed improvements based on the totality of the audit results. The audit shall include: 1, policies, procedures, and regulations. Examine existing policies, procedures, and rules governing police operations. Assess their alignment with strategic and capital planning. Evaluate their efficiency and effectiveness. Consider how they address financial constraints within the town. Access compliance with existing police policies, practices. 2, crime scene protocols. Review current policies, current crime scene protocols, compliance with current standards. Evaluate adherence to established crime scene investigating procedures. Access evidence of collection, preservation, and chain of custody. Review documentation, practices. Recommend training and process improvements. 3, professional standards and accountability. Review adherence to professional standards such as ethical guidance, best practice, and industry norms. Evaluate how the department ensures accountability for considered transparency, responsiveness to the public concerns. 4, organizational structures and governance. Analyze how the police department is organized, including reporting lines, hierarchy, decision-making processes. Assess the effectiveness of the communication channels within the department. Evaluate cross-functionality and collaboration between different units or divisions. 5, citizen privacy protection. Evaluate policies and practices related to citizens' personal information, access compliance with data protection laws, e.g. DBRP, HIAAA, review data access controls, encryption, and retention policies. Recommend improvements to safeguard citizen privacy. 6, policies, procedures, regulations. Examine existing policies, procedures, and rules governing police operations. Assess the alignment with strategic and capital planning. Evaluate their efficiencies and effectiveness. Consider how they address financial constraints within the town. 7, professional standards and accountability.
Same as number 1.
Yeah, I thought I had one in there. Okay, so I'll skip that one. That has got to be changed. I missed that. Management, operation, and culture. Assess leadership effectiveness, management practices, and decision-making. Evaluate operation efficiency, resource allocation, performance metrics. Explore the organizational culture within the police department. 9, well, be 8, training, standards, equipment. Evaluate initial training programs for new cadets. Review training during probationary period. Review compliance with post-commission training standards. Evaluate as to whether the town has the personnel and department equipment that would be expected in a town of this size. Citizens complaint process. Examine the process for receiving, tracking, resolving complaints. Assess transparency in complaint handling. Review timelines for compliant resolution. Evaluate communications with complainants. Recommend enhancement to ensure fair and efficient complaint resolution. Conflict of interest. Investigate potential conflict of interest among officers and staff. Assess policies on gift, secretary employment, relationships. Review disclosure procedures. Recommend measures to prevent and address conflicts. Comparison to similar communities. Compare Canton's police department practices to those of similar-sized communities in Massachusetts. Consider town size, demographics, form of government in these comparisons. 13, Select Board oversight and industry standards. Assess the oversight provided by the Select Board. Compare the oversight to industry standards and best practices. Recommendations and compliance. Based on the audit findings, recommend necessary improvements, ensure compliance with legal requirements and community expectations. And 15, recommended improvements. Based on findings, propose specific enhancements, prioritize improvements based on risk and impact, provide actionable steps for implementation, consider the community input and stakeholders' engagement. Disclosure of legal issues is fairly new. This came up during the Galvin selection process for the general contractor. And it made some sense because one of the contractors showed up with, a fairly large contractor, 15 pages of legal problems that were in the background. So I think we've got to know up front. Bidders shall provide a clear and comprehensive disclosure of any past and ongoing litigation related to their firm's performance of the audit. This includes, but is not limited to, lawsuits or litigation involving the bidder, regulation violations or sanctions, contract disputes, criminal convictions, any other legal matters that may impact the bidder's ability to perform the contract. Details required. Bidder shall specify the nature of each litigation, the parties involved, relevant dates, and the current status resolved and pending. Certification. By submitting a bid, the bidder certifies that all information provided regarding litigation is accurate and complete. Evaluation. The procuring agency will evaluate the disclosed legal issues as part of the overall bid evaluation process. Presentation of findings and recommendations. The successful bidder shall provide a comprehensive public presentation of their findings and recommendations related to the project outlined in the RFP. The presentation will be made before town meeting, allowing for transparency, community engagement, and informed decision-making. Content of the presentation. The presentation should cover, but not limited to, a summary of the bidder's analysis and research, key findings, including any significant insights or challenges identified, proposed solutions, strategies, or course of action, relevant data, visuals, and supporting evidence. Implications for the town and its stakeholders. Question and answer. Following presentation, the town meeting members shall have the opportunity to ask questions and seek clarification. The bidder shall be prepared to address inquiries and address in constructive dialogue. That is the outline that I had put together based on many other towns and their work. This is the basis. It's not until everybody here decides on it and agrees on it. That's the basis of what we should talk about. What have I missed?
There's no section on deconflicting language. Just you have a section on the disclosure of legal issues. That's wonderful. I applaud. However, there should be at least as much about disclosure of conflicts of interest, since conflict of interest have gotten us to this point in this town. So I would suggest that there be at least as much about conflicts of interest. For example, saying it should not be a firm that has a pre-existing relationship with the town, or conflicts of interest with any town employee, including the police department, or any board or committee member or their immediate families.
All right, will you put that in writing, get it to all the members?
Yes, I have
Okay,
it in writing.
please do that. Anything else?
Well, I'd also like us to consider, Dave has a RFP that also has some.
Okay, could I
We have
make
nothing to look at.
It's right here, but when we do look at it, may I make a suggestion? We use Mr. McCarthy's outline and then integrate his into it.
Okay, well, let's have Dave read
Okay.
his, since Mr. McCarthy read his.
This is the first time, the first meeting, and everything is being presented on the table tonight. Nothing can be voted because this is the first time it's been brought up. We will discuss all of this again at the May 16th meeting and try to get some of this resolved. But the idea tonight is to review everybody's idea of what else should be in there or what should be taken out of there.
I gave that a quick read, and the great majority of what is in Bob McCarthy's draft is in yours. I don't see much that was missed. There might be an item or two, but nothing
I think
significant.
yours is more specific,
Yeah,
but
he adds
his
specific.
covers. However, I have no problems integrating from my standpoint where it can be done. So
No
why
matter
don't you
what.
bring out, why don't you read yours? It's,
Sure.
Through the copy.
Could I
back
make a
there.
quick point?
That's the only one.
Before you read it, and I'm sorry, so I don't have to interrupt. One other point I would make is it hits the compliance issue. We have great policies and procedures, but I think what the taxpayers want to know is, are we complying to them? So Dave's hits the compliance issue a little harder It's not the, number one thing, but it's more prominent, I would say. So if you don't mind me saying that before you read yours, Dave.
You got the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, members of the town of Canton. So when I look into the scope of this, I look back and see what was passed in Article 6, the motion, the carried motion that 903 voters voted on. The majority of that is to proceed with an administrative policy, procedures, and compliance review of the police department to determine compliance with these aspects of the police department to be conducted with an independent consulting firm. So what I've done at that point is I broke it down into the four main headings that town meeting has really passed. To review the policies and procedures, which could probably be grouped into one heading. Secondly, there's an administrative part of the review, and finally, there's a compliance part. But town meeting does, in the end of their motion, they do mention that there should be a presentation to town meeting floor. So that I agree with you on, Mr. McCarthy. But to get a little bit further in depth into it, so the town needs an independent police audit. The chosen firms will be required to enter in professional service agreements with the town to fulfill the scope of work. The independent police audit will be expected to perform the responsibilities and duties as follows: provide a comprehensive and exhaustive independent police audit of the town of Canton, Mass. Police Department administrative policies, procedures, compliance, and determine the compliance and adherence to the policies and procedures, similar to what I just mentioned in the past motion of the article. The audit should be conducted within a certain standards. So one thing I believe your scope doesn't provide is some of the standards on how to proceed with the audit. So you do mention some items in regards to, capital planning, accounting, and finance. So those should be held to the government accounting standards. And then some of the police procedures policies should be held to post-commission standards, Massachusetts Police Accreditation Standards, Mass General Laws, Code of Massachusetts Regulations, CA-LEA standards, which is primarily what all of the Canton policies and procedures are written on. I've performed a public records request with the town of Canton Police Department to obtain all of the policies and procedures, and that's what's listed on just about all of them, in addition to some Mass General Laws and regulations. The audit shall be independent, unbiased, impartial, and I just added a few additional edits into the final version. So the consulting firm should have no prior relationship with the town, no conflicts of interest with town employees, including police department, the police department, the town board, or any committee members or their immediate family members. And the auditor should have unfettered access to all the information in unredacted form. I then go on to list all the policies and procedures, a good majority of them. I believe that some of them were redacted from my original public records request due to some public safety concerns, but the auditor should have all of those, have access to all of those policies and procedures. I won't list them out one by one because there's too many to list. In regards to the administration, our town auditors in the most recent annual report have noted there's about a $91,000 in uncollectibles in the police detail fund. So I like how you present that certain changes to policies and procedures should be recommended in your scope. And this is one of the things, when I did that public records request, there seemed to be some onboarding process with who the actual customer of the town is for that police details, especially in regards to subcontractor work. So being able to streamline that process to help the police be able to collect that $91,000, which could potentially fund an additional police officer for the town. So that is one of the items that should be included into the scope to see what's going on with the police detail fund. In addition, the independent police audit administration portion of the audit should focus on a host of other items, including review policy and procedure management software. Our town just updated our human resources management software, and that's something the police should have reviewed to see if we have the best software to cross-reference how our policies and procedures are with other towns and within the Commonwealth. In addition to reviewing cash forfeiture management administration procedures and how that's turned over to the assessor or town clerk, someone here at Town Hall, review all the cash funds, which is somewhat similar to what you mentioned in some of your policies or into your scope, I believe. Review all the Canton Police Department's operational procedures, as well as the organizational chart. Review the evidence rooms policies and procedures and adherence to the policies and procedures. Review all items concerning internal affairs, make recommendations to streamline Canton Police Department's operations, citizen complaint review process, and see how that's worked for all the citizens, not just a select few citizens in town. Review the personal and official town communications of all major stakeholders regarding the oversight of the Canton Police Department by the Board of Assessors and as the police commissioners. Access and compare select board oversight provided by the select board to other industry standards and best practices throughout other towns in the Commonwealth. One thing I also agree with you on is disclosing all the lawsuits, sanctions, regulatory violations, disputes, and I would also add into that internal affairs investigations and insurance claims, especially for potential misconduct claims, which could potentially be on the rise and have a financial burden on the town in the future. Communications between the police department and public works regarding police details, review of the overtime in it policy. Because one thing that comes up when I'm at the FinCom every year is the overtime that some of the departments in town get. And, I'm not trying to take away any overtime from anyone, but it's just a review and look under the hood to make sure everything is operating efficiently within the police department. And finally, for the administrative part, review the cell phone policy, because it's been mentioned in one of our prior meetings that, there's that police officers use their personal phones for official business as well. So how that affects potential public records requests. And then in regards to compliance, the audit should review laws, regulations, standards, as I mentioned before. So I list off about a dozen or so different laws, crime scene protocol compliance, conflicts of interest compliance, primarily which goes under, I believe, 268A, officer misconduct, disciplinary actions, state ethics review, town bylaw review, the CALEA standards review, adherence to the Mass Police Accreditation Commission, the Post Commission, review of Chapter 38, Section 3 and 4, and adherence to Regulation 555 peace officer training standards. And finally, it should be ended up with a report that gets submitted to town meeting. And I do like that you offer a question and answer session for the public. I think that could be helpful in helping the town heal. So, there's on one side of the table, there's 903 voters. On the other side, there's 800. And, half of them have police officer signs in their house that we support the police. I think everybody in this town probably in one fashion or another does support the police, but, it would be great to see the town heal and everyone come together and restore trust, because the appearance of trust has been eroded in this town with the police department on a certain group of people. And if we can restore that trust, it'll make it and end up making a bigger and better police department for our town. It'll be a great place for everyone to live and help solve the divide that's going on in town. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
listening to you, well, first of all, let me just say, 903 and 800 is not what I want to reach. I want to meet the 17, 18,000 citizens in the
Yes.
town of Canton, not just the ones that came to town meeting.
I agree.
The other thing is, many of the things I heard you talking about should be woven into the existing structure we have here, either added to the line item. If you can do that and
I-
get
I
that,
somewhat-
get that done, because I don't know exactly where, most of them you talked about, I've got listed here. But you added some different things to it, which should be added to this.
Mhm.
To get a chance that we could all look at it, get it put together prior to the next May 16th meeting. Kathleen, you said you had something. If you two want to work together, weave one together. Whichever way you want to do that, let us know so that we can all get a unified document. We'll have a chance to review well in advance of the May 16th meeting so that we can come here and talk on one document as to what we want. If we can come to an agreement on that, then we can proceed going for the RFP. Now, we get to the RFP, that normally will take 4 to 6 weeks, normally by the time you do all the paperwork and so forth. In the past, what I've been able to do is when they come in, we normally review them individually. If they say 8, 10 come in, they individually review them and rate them, 1 through whatever, 9 or 10. The top 3 are normally what we would normally interview. Bring them in for an interview, or we can do 4 or 5. Again, we can discuss that as a committee as to how we want to do it. But interviewing them in an open meeting is critical. I just came through 2 days of interviewing 6 GCs for the Galvin Middle project, and I went in on some of them I didn't think were that great, and yet their presentation was fantastic. So it does make a difference, and we can ask the questions that have to be asked, and try to get the ones that have done this, where they've done it, what they've seen for successes, what they have seen for failures. If you want to do 5, that's fine. But normally we do them all in one day, 45 minutes for it, 15 minutes for question. The next one starts 15 minutes after that and get them done all in one day. But again, we'll leave that up and there's time to think about it as to how we want to do it. Once we do that, because the RFP will go out with a contract that is vetted by town council, so that when we do select one, and actually we're going under 30B, section 6, which basically will have two envelopes come in, one with the bid and one with the price. We don't open the price till we shortlist. Once we shortlist, then we open it and see where we are in pricing. We don't have to go with lowball, we go with who we've selected. If it's at 200, that's fine. If it's over, then we'll have to deal with the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee, who's already said, if it's gonna be over, they'll fund it. So we'll see. But until it comes in, until we get the scope of services done, and until we get it out, we should be able to do it at the May 16th meeting, I believe, but we'll see. I mean, depending on when you can put all of that together, we can take it from there. Any other comments or questions or?
No, and again, I fully expect that the great majority of what appears in your document is just a little bit more dragged out. I think everything is there, and I didn't find anything objectionable at all.
I think it can be easily merged together in one document. Have time to look it over, get other input, and we should be able to bang this out the next meeting.
Kathleen?
Yeah, I'm happy to back Dave up, and I mean, this is his proposal, but I happen to be a writer and editor. I'm happy to do a back read and make sure there's no typos. I would ask you a question about the process of rating the responses. Is it each of us gives it a number, or do we collectively do that?
Each individual one will shortlist his own.
All right.
And rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Then we can either come together, sometimes we do it by email, but I think in this, it's too critical. We have to come together and iron it out as to who we're gonna pick 1, 2. If it's too close, we'll go 4, or if I'll go 5.
And another question I had, Mr. Chairman, is it may garner the interest of nationally known police auditing firms who, I mean, just it might be based in Dallas or might be based in, I don't know where, Colorado. Would they be able to go through that interview process on Zoom, for example?
Yeah, I'm sure we could do something like that. If they're interested, then they'd be interested enough to show up.
Well,
We had contractors for the Galvin project from all over the place. Some came in, and I've dealt with others that have come in. But we could do it on Zoom if absolutely necessary. I prefer to see them in
of
person,
course, right.
because if they're gonna make the commitment and they wanna do this project in the town of Canton, in Massachusetts, then they damn well should be here.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's a lot to ask for where they haven't, to make a trip to, to this area from across the country. If they have that option, I think that would,
If they're interested in a project that's probably a minimum of $200,000, then I think they can show up.
mhm.
I would really not like to do on TV, do it. I think it should be in person. We'll discuss it. That would be up to the full committee to vote up or down.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I would be happy to go through your scope of services and make some edits to it. And probably use like the track changes form on Microsoft Excel to show you what changes I would like to make. I'll keep your underlying document the same, but add some additions to it. Maybe even offer some potential edits or deletions.
It's a
to
Word
it.
document, so it should
Yeah.
be able to move it around, edit, and do whatever you want. If not, I'll send you another fresh copy, but anything that
Yeah,
went
I
out is
can
not
work with it.
proprietary. It's what I had put together, and I expect edits, and as you said, you caught one of the ones that, I knew I moved it, I couldn't remember which one I moved, because I originally put this together back in February, so.
And just in regards to the presentation of the RFPs, I'd be open to having one in Zoom or in person. I wouldn't preclude, a company that could be a great fit for the town if they were going to present via Zoom and then offer to show up in person, because obviously this is something they're going to have to do. Is they're going to, if they're out of town, they're going to have to fly in and spend some time here with our police department. So if they want to do an initial presentation over Zoom, I'm happy with that. And if it needs to be an executive order or public session, I'm happy with either way.
As I say, I prefer in person because I think you learn more, and it shows a commitment on the people that are coming in to do that. If it's by Zoom or something, and there are a lot of firms all over the country. You've researched some of them, and at the time when we do go out for the RFP, any names you have, I want to make sure that they're given to myself and Randy, so that we ensure not only are we going out publicly on the document, but send them individually to all those firms to make sure that they get it, and anybody interested. We want as much response to this RFP as we possibly can to try to generate the best firms possible to be able to do this.
And just to clarify, under Chapter 30B, Section 6, it's the most qualified bidder and not the lowest bidder, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and that's what I think we'd probably all be looking for. Is
Well, that's
the
why
most
we do
qualified
the
auditor.
interviews. If we're doing the interviews and we shortlist at 1, 2, and 3, and we select it, then you go with number 1. If you open that bid and at some time you just can't go and meet that price, you go to 2. But once you go to 2, you can't go back to 1 under Mass General Laws, Chapter 149. So we've got to be careful on that. We'll see where they come in. But you don't open the second envelope till we're done shortlisting. There's no peeking. Tempting, but there's no peeking. Any other questions, comments?
I would prefer in person. I think it shows
Yeah.
the purpose to provide the service to us. Also, these are businesses. This is short money to make these presentations.
I agree with that as well. I think you get a better sense of who and what you're dealing with in a face-to-face presentation. And if something were to come up down the road where we might have a good candidate, I think that's something we could talk about. But I wholeheartedly agree that face-to-face meeting is preferable.
It shows a commitment on their part that they're willing to come in and look at it. I'm not totally against, I am kind of totally against Zoom. I just don't think it works. I've done it before. I watch your finance committee meetings on Zoom. I think they're horrible. Anybody trying to see them, it's all over the place.
I do prefer those in person, but that's what we were dealt with this past year. So, I'm happy to do it either way.
It's up to the chair. Any other questions or comments or complaints? So, not seeing anything under our agenda, if we are done with,
Public comment. Mr. Chair, if I may, about public comment, in an effort to help restore some of the public trust in the town, would we be able to remove the select board's policy of 15 minutes and then, we don't have a large room of speakers. It looks like there's maybe 3 or 4, but just allow, everyone to speak. Everyone might just need a chance to get something off, get it out in the air just so they can be heard to help them move forward with what's going on in town.
well, I published it at 3. The first meeting, I would rather hold it to that. I've been up since 4. I've been a rather busy day, and the faster I can get out of here, the faster I will like it. It's been a long time. Excuse me? We haven't opened up public comment yet. Do you mind if I finish speaking?
No, I'm just saying it would help us if you would be a little flexible.
What are we talking flexible?
Just listen to us, that's all we're asking.
How long?
Don't leave it up long, just listen to us. Listen to us, listen, we came in crashing heads. I love the way you present.
All right,
it right now.
it's up to the,
Collaborative.
what does the committee want?
Anything within reason. I'm,
Yeah, we're gonna be within reason, we just wanna talk.
Or how about we
Stop
motion
at
to
5.
expand it to
5
30
minutes.
minutes as opposed, to, a motion
20
to
20 minutes maximum.
Thank you.
25? Can we meet in the
No,
middle?
20.
Could the people who want to comment please stand up so we have an idea of how many? Is there anyone else? 4.
4 people.
20
That
minutes.
should, we
That
should be
gives them 5
fine.
minutes.
Go
Yeah.
ahead. You have the floor.
Liza Colburn, Canton resident. I like the combined scope. It seems to touch just about everything, close to everything that the petitioners were concerned about. What I didn't hear was the time frame for historical analysis. And I say that because citizens' concerns date back to 2018 or earlier. And for certain things like crime scene response and conflicts of interest, there are concerns about multiple cases and incidents in town that do date well before Karen Reed. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Murphy.
Greg Murphy, Canton resident. So I guess the first thing I'm confused about, my understanding, at least the way the select board is run, when a topic of conversation is brought up, in this case, what will be in the scope of the audit, that the citizens have a chance to chime on that topic and not have to wait specifically for public comment. If I misunderstood what Robert's rules are there, then I'm using my public comment to do that now. With respect to the scope, I'll agree with Liza that I think the combining of the scopes is a great idea. What I didn't hear in either one of them, I think you covered communication, hierarchy, training, all touched around the area. But I would love if you could also include reviewing of the hiring practices. And the reason I suggest that, my understanding is our processes that we follow limit our scope of possible candidates. And that's not how it has to be. That's, at least by the way we choose to do it, that's how it has to be. But I believe there's other options that we could choose that don't limit the pool of potential candidates for us. I don't know if it'd be better or worse, but my suggestion is to include that review and ask the professionals, the independent review, auditors to take a look at that and see if there might be a better process for the town. Thank you.
Rita Lombardi, Canton resident. First of all, I want to apologize for my outburst at the beginning of the meeting. This is very emotional and I'm impassioned about this. And the reason we're here is because there's lack of trust and we're trying to heal the community. So I just want to say that I'd like to start over, and I like how you presented. That isn't what we have seen, Bob. Mr. McCarthy. So, from my standpoint and from the petitioner's standpoint, we heard strong opposition from you at the special town meeting. We also had strong opposition from people in the town. It was a heated topic to get this approved. And then we had Mr. Scollins appoint you as chairperson outside of the normal process, and and then we didn't really have a choice. We had to go with the chairperson and 2 other people. So we're lopsided. We have a 3-2 vote. And so that didn't make us feel good. And it felt a little like bullying. And so that's where I was coming from earlier. And so I just want to start over. And I just want to say, you 2 gentlemen, I don't know you. I do know someone who does know you, very dear to me. And he did say you were a great person, Dr. Muse. And so, and that's where Kathleen was coming from. So I don't know you, but when we find out that, you bought property from Helena, the chief of police's parents, and you bought their house, it makes us feel like lack of trust. And it's not you, but that's why we're here. And so all we're looking for is collaboration. We want to work. We want to heal the community. I come from the private sector, and in the private sector, audits are done all the time. They're done to make things better. We're not looking to say who did something wrong, let's go get them. That's not what this is about. This is about protecting us from lawsuits. We're going to get sued in the Karen Reed case. We're going to get sued. The state of Massachusetts is going to get sued. We want to protect the town from that. And in the private sector, when there's policies and procedures and there's automation to safeguard people going rogue, we need those same controls in the public sector. That's what we're looking for. Things shouldn't happen. We shouldn't have the breaks and procedures that we have had. We're looking to fix those. So I just want to say, if we could just collaborate and work together and start over and mend. I mean, I love that we're blending what you have and what you have together. That's what we want. We want to bring the community back together. Our families are torn apart. Everyone's families are torn apart. Mine's no different than everybody else. It's excruciating. You just don't see it on my face. You know, everyone's family is impacted by this. And the sooner we can show everybody that we're working together for a united goal, for the betterment of our town, the better we're all going to be. So I appreciate really and truly what I just heard. And I hope that we can go forward. And I really appreciate you giving us extra time to talk, because that's another thing that we feel stifled in the select board meetings. And all we want to do is express ourselves. And when we're stuffed, then it blows up. So anyways, that's all I got for tonight. I really appreciate it. And I really hope that we can get the best audit firm that we can, so that we can fix whatever we need to fix, so that we can be the best town that we can be and be proud of everything that we're doing. So thank you.
Mary McManus, Canton resident. I came down here because I was watching this committee on TV about 10 minutes ago at home with my elderly parents and my sister and some family friends. And I had to fly down here in the car because right away I saw this idea of a biased committee, because it seemed lopsided to me. It kind of confuses me as to how we had 900 and something vote to 800 and something vote, and yet the committee is pretty much lopsided as to right away if it was voted on today. I feel like one side would be against the other side. The image of, I don't want to say impropriety because that's not the word, but the bias or perceived bias, because you gentlemen have either bought property or owned property or have some influence with Chief Rafferty. And I'm not saying that anything was done wrong or right or whatever, but there's a perceived bias right away. And so as I'm watching this on TV, I'm thinking, how can we have an audit that's going to represent the whole town when right away we have this unbalanced perception, well, rightly or wrongly? And so what I ask you gentlemen and the people on the other side is that, like Rita said, we're not doing this for ourselves or the Karen Reed side or the other side or the police one. I come from a family of, my grandfather was a police officer, my uncle was a police officer. I highly respect police officers, but when I see biases and I see perceived problems with protocol on crime scenes and whatever, we want, as a town, people are asking, why did that happen? Why didn't they do this? Why didn't we do that? We're all true crime followers. Why wasn't this done? Why wasn't that done? This is what we're asking you people to hire this committee, and that we can trust and say, yes, this committee went out there. They had no bias on one side or the other. The town or the organization that we hire is unbiased, and they're going to come out and do what they're supposed to do, and they're not going to be in favor of the police or the town. They're going to go out and do what the town wants, so that we can step back and say, okay, this is what we did wrong, this is what we did right, this is what we need to do. We have to look at our hiring committee and how we hire officers, how we fire officers, who gets promoted. This is what we want to do as a town. We don't want to have to keep turning around and saying, oh, someone got hired because, or, whatever's going on. We want to know that this audit was done correctly. We don't want people stepping back going, we hired these people and then it was done this way because of who was on the committee. So I don't know any of you out there, and I haven't worked with you. I don't know you. And I'm just asking you, as a town, we want the image to come forth from this committee as honest, truthful, not beholden to one side or the other. So that prompted me to get into my car 10 minutes ago and run down here because I was hearing things and going, oh God, again. So I'm a 59-year resident of this town, and very few things have gotten me off the couch because I was a teacher and I worked my ass off in teaching. But when I see what's going on here, I say, I've got to get involved because I want to make sure that this committee comes out with an unbiased result that people can trust and say, yeah, it was done right. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And if I could just quickly address what you had to say. There's been much said about how the town of Canton has been torn asunder, and family members are now enemies and families don't speak to each other anymore. And a lot of that is true. And I think a lot of that is because we are drawing perceptions of each other. And I know there was much discussion about Dan and myself, Dr. Muse and myself, being biased. Well, again, those conclusions were being drawn by people who've never met myself and never met Dr. Muse. And I quite frankly, I could be guilty of that as well. And I think that's what we've got to get beyond. I'm a 51-year resident of the town of Canton. I love the town of Canton. I love everything about it. And I think all of us at this table want to work hard, very hard, collegially together to get the best product that we possibly can for the town that we all love so well. Thank you for that.
Good evening, Jennifer O'Donnell, Canton resident. I first wanted to also apologize for my reaction earlier when things got heated. The reason things were getting so heated, though, is for what everyone's already stated. We're in this position right now because the people in the town, or a lot of the people in the town, don't feel that they can trust the people who are in charge of managing our town and policing our town, and that's a very frightening feeling. I also want to say that when we asked for a vice chair, I think, is that what the title that you got? Yeah. To the gentleman to the right, I want to say thank you. Your immediate reaction was to compromise and not just to say no. And I think that's probably one of the best things you could have done right out the gate, because it instantly calmed the room. And I think that that needs to be what everyone needs to focus on. We are all here for the exact same thing. We just may have a different way of going about it, but the ultimate safety, reputation, and wholeness of our town is on everyone's mind. And I hope that we can all work together to get there. And thank you so much for not having a beeper and a timer. The amount of pressure that puts in this room and the feeling of feeling rushed and hostility, it comes from that. So if you let people speak, this is what you're going to get back from us. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Sean Colburn. First of all, I would like to address one thing that I don't believe that I heard stated. As far as the timelines for the police audit, I would like to recommend that we go back. A previous speaker had mentioned as far as 2018. I think if you look back at the Mass Peace Officers Standard, the Post-Training Commission was established as part of the criminal justice system reform to improve policing and enhance public confidence in law enforcement by implementing a fair process for mandatory certification, discipline, and training for all officers in the Commonwealth. The Post database of sustained allegations and disciplinary actions shows one disciplinary action reported by the Canton Police Department for the last 24 years. That is very eye-opening and troubling. I mean, if you look at the neighboring cities and towns, Stoughton had approximately 30. Randolph had approximately 17. Sharon had approximately 7. Milton had approximately 22. There was one report filed in the Canton Police Department, and that report was filed while the person was a Boston police officer that had transferred to the Canton Police Department. If you go back to 2007, there was a lawsuit settled in the Lopalato case by one of our officers that has been promoted twice since then. And there was an out-of-court settlement for close to $300,000. And it's not even listed in the post reports. We have to go back as far as it takes to give this community some sense of trust and transparency. And I ask you gentlemen and you ladies to please, please help us. Thank you.
Seeing we're done with the public comments. Oh,
Could I ask one quick question,
Sure.
Bob? I wanted to ask what impact the town council might possibly have on this process and this RFP. Is it possible that at the back ends, things might be changed, or do you have any insight on that?
say the beginning again. I did-
Do we have any, is it possible that after we go through and come to an agreement, et cetera, that the town council can then overrule that and say, oh, no, you have to do it a certain way? No, that's not going to
It's
happen.
never happened to me in 30
Good,
years.
good. I'm glad to hear that, and I'm glad to have your word on that.
All
Thank
right.
you.
It will go with Randy to do his ministerial
Of course.
duties on that, and I think
For
you
the
understand
law.
ministerial after you're back and forth with him. But we'll put together the standard contract that is put together by town council. It's always added on the end, so that when we do select somebody, they see the contract. It shouldn't hold us up in any negotiations, and we know the price.
But that contract doesn't change like the terms
No?
or the scope or anything like that.
Oh, no, the scope,
Thank you for
the
that.
scope strictly comes from here.
Thank you for that reassurance.
Okay. Seeing nothing else, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
A motion.
All those in
Second.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, 5-0 at 8:02.